Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Price List Update video series brought to you by Actionable Insights. You've got Harrison here, you've got Whatley there, and we're here to talk about the changes to the Xactimate price list in March of 2023, what new line items were added to the price list, and what changes happened to existing line items in the price list. Whatley, we've got a big month. It's March 2023 with 33 new line items to discuss. That's like the most new line items that we've had in a while.
Yeah.
So, which is awesome
Right
to
up there
review and cover.
on top in the last year.
Yeah. Plus a lot of text changes to existing line items. Seems like there's a lot of clarifications about how line items were intended to be used in March 2023 and beyond. The only announcements we have at the beginning of this video, come join us at the RIA Convention in April. That's April 25th and 26th, although there are classes before on Monday, April 24th, Sunday, April 23rd. Wally, you are the keynote, and you have a special guest, the new guy at Verisk Property Estimating Solutions, Mr. Aaron Bronco, will be joining you on stage at the RIA keynote.
I don't think I'm the keynote. I think Bronco
Fair.
is the keynote. But yeah, the new president, and he's not new to the Verisk Property Estimating Solutions business unit. He has been there his whole darn career.
True.
But he was recently promoted from SVP to president. And so he's going to be coming out and talking about what Verisk is up to and garnering feedback from the restoration community about what they'd like to see Verisk build. So come meet us in Florida. Pumped to have Bronco joining us for that keynote.
I know the RIA is also working with Verisk to host one of the Xactimate pricing certification courses.
Oh.
So if you're interested in becoming certified in Xactimate pricing by Verisk, if you want to be able to provide trusted pricing advocate feedback, join the RA's class with Verisk, where they're hosting, I believe that's going to be on Monday the 24th, right before the conference starts in April.
That's cool.
All right, Whatley, let's jump into the 33 new line items this month. Starting here at the top, we have new add for at height line items. Over the past 12 months, we've seen additions in drywalls. We've seen additions in WTR, removing drywall at height. Now we have replacing plaster or replacing wallpaper if you are working at height, either between 11 to 14 feet high or over 14 feet to 20 feet high. There are now add for line items that you would add when invoicing for those activities. Now, a reminder, these are add fors, meaning you would estimate to replace all the plaster in that room, for example, and then you would add this particular line item on top of that, but only invoice for the square footage that is between 11 to 14 square feet, or only in the square footage between 14 to 20 feet for that particular line item, the over 14.
And show an example calculation for 11 to 14. So it'd be,
sure.
It'd be PF.
PF times
4 usually, if it's going to be over 14.
11 to 12, 12 to 13,
Yeah,
13 to 14.
I know there's always some confusion there, but I think PF4 is the intention of that line item.
You always saying PF times 4. I've always thought PF times 3.
12,
11
13,
to 12,
14.
11 to 12, 12 to 13, 13 to 14.
11 to 12, 12 to 13,
13 to 14.
Oh,
That's
you're right.
3. Yep. Yeah. So this is the best part about these kinds of moments on these recordings, because people do it differently their whole careers.
Yeah.
But to me, it's always been over 11, 11 to 14, 11 to 12, 12 to 13, 13 to 14. That's PF times 3. So the entire perimeter in that 3-foot section. Then over 14 feet would be everything above 14.
So there's probably now 16 line items for additional cost at height between, painting, drywall, even WTR, removal of drywall or insulation.
If I search additional cost in the search menu, you can start to see them added up.
Yep.
Clean high, dry add, paint high, etc.
So they're super easy to estimate incorrectly, and they're super easy to overlook. So the cool thing is that Actionable Profile has a lot of logic for, one, making sure if the room height is over 11, that you're going to be notified like, hey, additional cost for at height activities may be warranted. So that's helpful. Also, if you include overages and you do what I just did, which is say PF times 4, it's likely that it would catch that overage and guide you towards something that would be more compliant with the spirit of the line item. So if you're using the Actionable Profile, you can set it and forget it. And you know that you'll always be reminded for, one, confined space, but also at height for additional cost line items.
By the way, you mentioned the Actionable Profile there. Hey, if you've not heard of the Actionable Profile, Actionable Insights has a profile inside of Xactimate that when I pop out this right side drawer, it provides live estimating guidance that reacts to your scope while you write it. So if you've ever wanted somebody to take a look at your estimate, make sure you didn't make any mistakes, make sure that you didn't forget any line items. If you write your estimates in the actionable profile, we are that second set of eyes in every estimate that you are writing inside of it.
It's like having Harrison look over your shoulder.
It's not bad. It's I think it's a fun estimating experience, but I'm biased. It's me.
Yeah.
All right. Next new line item this month is painting toe kicks.
Yeah.
PNT. You mentioned in our pre-call prep, we've had staining, we've had thermofoil, but now we actually have a painting toe kicks line item.
Yeah. That's a good addition. I was always confused about what to do with that as an estimator when we were painting cabinetry, especially like in lower end apartments and so on. Sometimes you just paint them. It's like, what do? You do the thermofoil. It's not a stain. And now there is an answer. So hats off for that line item. That should help constrain arguments.
Love it. Shampoo corner shelf. For all of you that have little shelves in your showers in the corner, here in the TIL tile category, we now have a shampoo corner shelf ceramic or cultured marble. So that's also nice to have.
Yep.
The line items long promised have arrived. We've been hearing whispers in the wind of panoramic / multi-slide doors. Those are becoming more common, of these giant doors, multi-doors, and then kind of folding them accordion style, open and closed. We now have 7-foot high versions of these doors, 8-foot high and 9-foot high per linear foot line items in the WDP category.
Now I know how prohibitively expensive it's going to be to do that at my house, but
yes,
I've had my
that's
eye on
per linear foot, by the way. That's in the San Diego price
These are
list.
not cheap.
If you want your 8-foot high door, that's almost $1,400 for linear foot. So good luck.
Thanks.
All right. Lastly, we've got a ton of overhead door line items. Now, we've had overhead door line items. We have new overhead doors in the following sizes: 10 by 11, 10 by 12, 8 by 11, 8 by 12, 9 by 11, 9 by 12. We also have all four of those sizes in the various grades that are possible: standard, normal, high, and premium.
Yep.
So, boom. And we were looking up, Whatley, before we started, hey, what other overhead line items already existed? Why did we need these? Well, if you come here, you'll see we had 10 by 7s, 10 by 8s, 10 by 10s, 10 by 9s. We never had anything that went up to 11 feet.
Yeah.
We never had anything that went up to 12 feet. So that's why there's this whole new collection of overhead door line items that go up to 11 feet or go up to 12 feet.
I can't help but wonder if you did this with 4 line items between average, standard, high, and premium grade, and you did it by square footage, could you accomplish roughly the same thing as opposed to the introduction and adoption of these 70 different line items for overhead doors? But we're committed now.
Yes, instead of having 4 overhead door line items by square foot, there's probably about 30 line items that you could choose from. Yeah. So most importantly, Whatley, when we train, we talk about the new age of learning. You just need to know that something exists. Well, guys, you need to know that overhead door line items exist at higher heights than ever heighted before.
Yep. And there's a lot of detail around the overhead door line item for like weather stripping and when is hardware included and not included, and what hardware does that include? Like, is that for the automatic lift and so on? It's pretty nuanced because you've got the weather stripping on the side, but it's different the weather stripping in the bottom. Sometimes it's included, sometimes it's not. The actionable profile does a lot of great work guiding you around that for both the overages and the omissions. It's so complex, I can't even repeat it back to you in real time about how all of those different add 4 line items work. But if you include one of those, the actionable profile will guide you towards the other relevant line items that may be warranted. But if you include ones that are overtly included, then it's going to tell you it's an overage.
Well said. Okay, that's all for March 2023. There's the 33 new line items that were added this month. Plenty of good ones, honestly, Whatley. Things like painting toe kicks, things like even the shampoo corner shelf, I think will be more common than not in the future. Now let's take a look at the changes to existing line items. Not only are new line items added to the price list every month, but the existing line items that were already in there do change from time to time. This month, March 2023, we do not have any yield changes. So there was no major changes to pricing of a line item, no major changes to the productivity of a line item, at least via yield. No pricing changes via yield. But we do have a lot of clarifications in additional item information. And so taking a look here, we've got a few of these ELE line items here, starting with the scoreboard rough-in. This is ELE AESB. And when we take a look at the changes, it's more just kind of trying to clarify what assumptions are included in the line item. So just updating language. On the left side, by the way, we have February, so what it looked like last month. Now we have March on the right side, what it looks like this month. Bringing these closer together, right? February, it said material and labor to install conduit, wiring, rough-in boxes. Now it's more clear on just look, in conduit, wiring, rough-in boxes, floor receptacle, open power connection, etc. So there's a lot of clarification. Yeah, there's a lot of clarification in all of these line items. Junction box.
This one's relevant because this comes up a lot.
J box. Yes. So
is wiring included? Is it not included in the J box? I bet a lot of people would answer that like different ways. And so now it's very explicit that wiring is not included, right?
Well, it says excludes wire and conduit if wire is needed. But what the specific change here that they're looking at is in February, they had said this is 12 by 2 conductor wire with ground. Now they're not saying that. Now they're just clear. They removed actually the reference to the wiring here, and they wanted to clarify what junction box material is actually. Yeah,
because how can they define the grade of the wire if it's not in the components buildup? Because the price structure didn't change, so that didn't make sense.
Makes a lot of sense.
I got what they did there and why.
ELE mast. So we've there's all the mast line items here in the electrical category have clarified the wiring material assumptions. So you can see it used to say 2-inch conduit. Now it actually says aluminum service cable, 2.0 RHW conductors, etc. So this one, because the wiring is included, they have made it much clearer as to what kind of the quality that they're referencing here.
That's a good update.
Would be.
I've always been a little unclear about what that includes and doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, you can just see a sweeping changes kind of here over a collection of ELE line items, just trying to clarify, wiring, no wiring, what kind of wiring, etc. These rewire and rewire C line items, we've seen these a lot over the years when people are estimating wiring. They reworked and modified the included and quality fields of the plus replace here. So we have, instead of steel electrical boxes, number 12 and number 8 copper wire, now it just says electrical boxes, copper wire, conduit. So it seems like
making it a little bit more ambiguous, actually.
Yeah, it seems like, hey, they're not as prescriptive with the type of wires that are used with these kinds of line items.
Which makes sense. I don't love these line items, guys. I bias as a trainer, training you guys towards using SKT macros for ELE.
The macros that come with your software when you first open it up, the SKT macros.
Interesting that they didn't do it for commercial, right? Because there's a commercial version of these line items as well. Maybe we'll see it next month.
Yes, possibly. Lastly, these gauge copper wires. Basically, if you look at the descriptions, you're laughing because we looked at this before. Quality just said 1 gauge wire. Now it says 1 gauge copper wire. So they just need to
clarify. If the description wasn't enough, it's very copper.
Yes. Copper. Okay, stud walls. Okay, this was interesting for you and I to look at. Yeah. Here is all of your stud wall line items. 2x4x8, 16 on center. 2x4x8, 12 on center. 2x4x8, 24 on center. Okay. What actually changed here is really just the assumptions. It says on the right side, there's a new note. Framing stud walls. Estimators are recommended to review the material assumptions within the item assembly against their specific job/scenario and make any adjustments as needed or warranted.
Yeah.
So Whatley, in the past, we've seen language like the parties are involved are encouraged to review the prices associated with this and then update the price of a line item if it's wrong, if it's not correct. But this is not what this is saying.
I think I know why they're doing this.
What this is calling out is saying, hey, we want you in this framing wall line item, stud wall, to review the amount of material that's provided with the line item and to make concessions for your particular job/scenario. So, Whatley, what do you think the intention of this language? How should people be interpreting it?
It's just a common overage that happens on both sides of the claim when dealing with insulation or with framing. So, if you've got, say, 3 rooms, 12 by 12, 12 by 12, 12 by 12, and you're going to estimate to replace the framing, say, by stud walls, if you go in and hit those stud walls it's going to drop those for the W variable, I think by default, and so it would apply those stud walls towards the walls. Now, if you did that for all 3 rooms, you would have overages in, say, your center room for the stud walls being charged twice. Same thing happens with like R13 insulation. That's something I've really seen commonly as a trainer when I've reviewed other people's work, is you're billing for R13 twice. Well, there's only one R13 in between those walls. And so inadvertently you can include overages. And I think that's what that additional item information is guiding you towards. Ideally, I'd like to see the program like remind you if there is an overage there for the framing. And that's something we can consider for our rule set with actionable profile. But in the interim, just be aware that insulation and stud walls can easily be overbilled. You see, if you dumped it in both rooms, you could end up applying it to that same wall. And so I think that's what the update is all about.
Well, the exercise I was trying to perform while you were talking over it was using the sketch and actually going into the properties of a wall and turning on framing and seeing the line items come in purple, algorithmic, into the main level of this area. I would imagine that the Xact software is doing its best.
Yeah, if you do that, you're good. Because that takes it outside of the room, which is why it's always outside the room. That always throws people off. Like, why does it do that? Well, it's correcting for this issue. And you have to look at framing like globally, almost as like general conditions, and not in the individual room for this very reason. So like that's what the program's doing if you do it the way that Harrison's doing it. But
this is the good way.
I'm not sure if I'm right. Now I'm like, don't know if I want you to show it. But I think if you add those line items individually in those rooms, it will apply the W variable by default. To the extent, what do you see in there? Yeah, a W variable. So I see it there.
For some of them, yeah.
For,
square footage line items, yes.
Yeah, 57, 58, whatever. It's coming in with W. So to the extent that it's coming in with W, you guys can see how you could have inherent overages when
you could frame both sides of the same wall, which could be considered an overage.
And this is reasons why, when I see sketches where the rooms aren't put together or the stairway is out, it makes me nervous as a reviewer, because I'm like, well, there's a lot of space for overages. When you don't have your rooms together, then Xact doesn't know that that's the same wall. And so if you were to imply framing, you'd have inherent overages.
Yep. So generally what this language is now encouraging people to do is to think about shared wall applications when it comes to framing. This is not every line item, not every room that you ever come across. But if you're framing both sides of the same wall, take a look and be willing or ready to have a conversation about how that line item should be applied based on your unique job scenario and the original material assumptions allotted in the line item. All right. Last changes to take a look at this month. We've got some soffit changes, soffit metal, soffit vinyl in the SFG category. They're just clarifying that both of these metal and vinyl soffits include both non-vented and or vented quality covers. So just it's vented or non-vented. And then lastly, we have some tile, metal trim, aluminum line items. They have been updated to just say, hey, these are meant for prefabricated metal trim corners. These are not customized. These are not from scratch. But if you're buying prefab metal trim, aluminum or stainless or brass, those are prefab line items here, and they clarify the languages. Okay. Well, like I said, not many yield changes, not many any crazy changes to line items, but a lot of clarifications around how line items are intended to be used. We just finished an Xactimate class 2 weeks ago, right? What do we talk about in our classes at Actionable Insights? Thinking critically about line items and how they were intended to be used. So it's great to see some of these language clarifications that will hopefully reduce some of the friction of the industry as contractors and adjusters just do their best trying to settle claims with Xactimate. All right. Lastly, we kind of highlight, Verisk always puts out kind of a teaser of what line items might be coming in the future. 2 items they listed this month for the future: detaching and resetting bathroom vent fan covers. And something that I know will be interesting for you, Whatley, they are looking at electric car charging stations. So that is great to see that those 2 line items will be coming, or examples of those line items will be coming in the future.
Several. Boy, the electric one is tough. Like the Ford one is $15,000 that can do bidirectional, and you can run your house off your F-150. And then, you've got Tesla down here, kind of mid-market, $700. And then you've got Bosch and so on at 300. So I don't know how they're going to do that. That's a wide spectrum of cost structures for EV chargers.
And Verisk has typically tried to pursue a brand agnostic line item. So, but sometimes that's not always possible. Or just you would create a line item for all the qualifications of that brand without saying the brand's name.
Yep.
So, all right, that's everything we have for March of 2023. Thank you. Oh gosh, Whatley, our social media team's going to get mad at me. I didn't say the phrase that. What's the phrase that pays? Don't forget to like and subscribe. Hit the bell on YouTube. All right. No, it really does help. Every like and subscription helps us.
Have we been able to turn off ads yet?
Not yet. We just need people to watch our videos on YouTube. If we have more watch hours on YouTube, we will qualify for the next level of being awesome on YouTube. And that next level of being awesome on YouTube allows us to turn off ads on our videos, which we want to do. We're an educational nonprofit, people. We want to bring you the good stuff without any distractions or obstacles. So please like, please share, please subscribe. Everything helps us create more content like this to help improve the overall property insurance ecosystem. In the meantime, thank you and good luck settling those claims out there.
Keep building.